Welcome to So Good Coffee Channel again. Right now we're going to talk about how some of our producing partners came here to Indonesia to process this beautiful, beautiful coffee. Okay, welcome to the stage, Lisa from Back Bay State, and then we have Troy Kuiper from Bright Java. And of course, Rodney from Seniman and Karana Global. All right.
Jesus.
Oh, you have paper.
You're translating, no?
Oh, okay. You prepare.
I'm going to interview you.
All right. Some of you, I've heard some stories about what is your journey before coffee, but I want to hear it again. Let's start from you, Rodney. I'll translate.
Oh, I thought I'd start after Dr. Intan's talk. I thought rather than telling you straight away my profession, I thought I'd start with a riddle.
Oh, riddle.
Yeah,
That's
after his
very
talk.
Seniman, you know.
I'm all microbes and not human. What profession am I?
Aku adalah mikroorganisme. Tadi, sorry, what was the riddle again?
Bukan manusia.
Okay, and not human.
Aku adalah mikroorganisme dan aku bukan manusia. Apakah aku ini?
What profession am I?
Iya, kerjaanku apa sih?
Artist. That's my profession.
Okay.
That's the answer to the riddle.
So, okay. Because explaining the riddle would take 30 minutes.
This is a very bad stand-up.
So you're an artist. So you're
yes.
the Seniman.
Yes.
You own Seniman and you are the Seniman.
own.
Oh no, you own. Oh yeah, okay. So you are the Seniman of Seniman.
I'm the Seniman of Seniman.
What kind of artist are you?
Very good.
Yeah. Very good. Okay.
Excellent.
What are you doing that you think that you're very good at it?
Not that I think.
Oh yeah, that you're truly very good at it.
What am I doing?
Yeah, what am I doing? What kind of art that you create? Riddles.
Now it's getting serious.
Okay.
For the last 30 years, nearly 40 years, I have been creating fictional businesses and real businesses as art, as artwork.
That's
that.
business. Yeah.
Fictional businesses
Fictional business.
and real businesses as artwork.
Wow. Yeah, this is really interesting because people often think that businessman is no artist, you know. And I like your approach that businessman is an artist. And you can actually create fictional business. Maybe is it a business plan?
It's a fictional business
or is
plan.
just in your head that I want to make these things?
No. Seriously, in the 80s, 90s, I was creating
Fictional.
a fictional business around a fictional philosopher,
Okay.
which was a fictional art collection, which produced exhibitions.
Oh wow.
And then as an artwork for 10 years, 15 years. And then I decided rather than this fictional business, I should create a real art institution called International Art Space as an artwork. So the curator, the building, the artists, everything involved in that particular business was an artwork.
All right. That's really interesting. And I can say that I'm a fan of your real. Is it real business? Seniman is a real
It's a
one.
real
It's the real
artwork.
one. I'm a fan of Seniman.
Thank you.
The saying in front of your store, everything happens to everyone.
Uh-huh.
That's my favorite
Okay.
thing about
Not
Seniman.
imagine you know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's the second one. A close second. Now that I remember it, that's the second one. Okay, moving on to Troy. I've heard that you were in the Marines, U.S. Marines.
That is correct.
Could
I was
you-
a United States Marine in the
Yeah.
United States and other countries.
I can see that you work out and you have the physique of a Marine, Troy.
Even though I've let myself go in the last 10 to 11 years, some
That's-
of it still remains.
Yeah, I can see that there's a shadow
This
of
is so not me.
Marine.
I'm so kidding.
Okay, could you please tell me what did you do before starting coffee business in Indonesia?
Well, like we kind of discussed yesterday and some previous days, because he's been probing me for information. For, depending on how it's counted, 18 to 22 years, I was in the United States military, traveled all over the world, lived in Japan, Okinawa, Japan, about 1,000 miles south of the main islands of Japan. I lived there for 4 years, served in Iraq and Afghanistan, traveled other places in the Middle East, traveled around Asia. Where else did they send me? All kinds of places in the time. I did logistics, so my job was to move 200 to 800 of my closest friends and all their guns and equipment to some other place in the world to do not nice things to other people.
But I think that skill is really useful right now in transporting coffee, no? No?
I
Some-
have found that really useful.
That's great.
What do you mean I can't just order a ship to show up right here and I have to wait until Hapag-Lloyd can send it to me? So it's a little different in that I have to wait in line now, and I just like snap my fingers
All right.
and military sea lift command make something appear, but I know some of the lingo and how to make these things happen now.
Wow, that's great. So if you want to transport coffee, probably you can consult the logistic part of it to Troy. All right, Lisa, I've heard that you used to be a dentist, or you're still a dentist, and you were in Middle East and Africa to serve for humanitarian services. Could you please tell me about that?
Yeah, that's right. My background is in biology and medicine, and then on to business administration. So I work with the International Mission Board across 4 countries in Africa, and that's where I met a lot of smallholder coffee farmers, and my interest in coffee was already established before my time in Africa, but that really made me decide to work towards my dream of having my own coffee farm and my own business, and one that I could retire into, and it would be a ground up business, so grow the coffee, process it, roast it, retail it.
That's great. So you've been in Indonesia for 15 years, or the first time you visited?
Just 13 years, yeah.
13 years.
Yeah. So I was finishing up a job in 2009 in the Middle East, and Leo and I decided to take a tour around Toba Lake and look for an area that we felt like had a lot of future potential for business and growth. And we picked cherries everywhere around the lake, processed them, roasted them, cupped them ourselves, trying to decide which area around the lake had the potential we were looking for, and we chose Simalungun. And Leo's family had some ties there already, so we were assisted by his family in finding a couple of wonderful places to grow coffee.
All right. We see this quite a lot, where expat would move to producing region and process coffee. For example, I think Jamison Savage came from the US to Panama, and then he's bringing new wave of coffee in Panama, I think. And I believe that through your presence here, I really think that you're bringing something interesting to the coffee scene here in Indonesia. But I really want to ask, why Indonesia? Why? What did you decide? What is the underlying reasons on moving to Indonesia? What is it, Troy?
Why does a guy who used to be in other bad places in the world where the United States was doing not great things have to start? Anyway, why Indonesia? When I was finishing up in the U.S. military, I said to myself, it would be great if I could move into a second career where, one, I was my own boss, two, I could do something to give back to people, three, I could do something that was related to agriculture and farming. For years, I've been interested in what mankind does with basic products we get from God. Sun and dirt and seeds and a couple of animals. And from all that, we have everything you see around us, including smartphones. It's a stretch, but really, that's okay. But I took a trip to Thailand. That trip ended up being about 7 months in length, and it was me taking a course in how to use business as a tool for sustainable development. And since plane tickets were expensive, I took a one-way trip. And when that course was over, we're kind of stuck here in Southeast Asia. Now what do we do? So from Thailand, I went around the region with my family, kind of looking for opportunities to do something to give back to people, to do something entrepreneurial, to do something agricultural. And I should also add, and if he ever watches this, shout out to Tom Owens with Sweet Maria's Coffee in the United States that sells green beans to home roasters. Someone sent me a link to their website in 2008, and I was hooked on roasting my own green beans from then till now. And having that in the back of my mind, thinking, well, here I am in Southeast Asia, it would be nice to eventually do something to help people, but coffee's cool too. Where is there a lot of coffee in Southeast Asia? Oh, Indonesia, it's number 4 in the world. Well, let me just go and travel around Indonesia and see what opportunities are here in Indonesia. We didn't find any opportunities in Indonesia, but it seemed like a cool place to move to, so I just moved to Indonesia with my family.
All right.
And I'll stop there. Rodney?
Oh, Rodney.
I'm not part of his family, but I come from a seed. Maybe you could translate this as we go.
Oh, we have subtitles.
Oh, really? Okay. In 2007, in 2005, I was traveling to Bali, doing artworks. I used to travel a lot with a good friend who's now deceased, but a good and wonderful friend who's an art collector, and also very familiar with Indonesia, and his name is Christopher Hill. On one of these trips in 2007, we were offered a bank for sale. Now, when the seller said, "Would you like to buy a bank?" actually, we both thought, a bank, yeah, land on a river, right? A river bank. Yeah, okay. Well, we're in Bali, and we're fairly familiar with people trying to sell us land. So Chris said, "No, we're not here to buy land. We're actually not interested in buying any land." And the seller said, no, not a land, a bank. You know, deposits, lending, a bank. Okay, I said Chris. Okay, maybe we should take a look. So the story of Cinnamon begins. And a few years later, we didn't buy the bank, actually, but that's another story. But along the way, the bank had been named, and the bank was called Bank Cinnamon. A few years later, on another trip to Indonesia with Chris and another conversation with a hotel owner complaining he owed money from a failed business deal, the debtor had given the owner of the hotel a certificate of land in Bali as a payment for the debt. The land was 2 hectares of Robusta. What am I going to do with this land? Said the hotel owner. Now, without thinking, I just said, oh man, just start a coffee brand. You know, how hard is that? Call it Cinnamon. And so the story continues. Oh, you want me to continue?
Should we continue in another time, or should we keep on hearing it?
Well, that's how it... So it started from a bank, which was called Bank Cinnamon.
Bank Cinnamon.
We spent 2 years looking into buying that bank. And for a number of reasons we didn't, but the Cinnamon name stuck. And when this other opportunity came up, and I said flippantly, just start a coffee brand. It can't be that hard. And I'm still doing it, but they're not.
All right. So what is the challenge starting as a bank, then become a coffee brand? And I believe that starting a business on its own is hard, but starting business elsewhere in the world where probably you don't really know about the bureaucracy, about the culture, how is it hard related to the business growth of Cinnamon, Rodney?
I don't think it's very hard if you're totally naive.
Oh, I really like, I really love the way you talk, you know.
So, sorry?
Yeah, if you,
well,
yeah,
that's probably the best way.
Well, they're completely ignorant. It's not hard at all.
No, exactly. It's a bit like Troy. You wander around the world. Oh, I think I'll live here. Oh, yeah, I think I'll do coffee. Oh, yeah, good. I mean, anyone that had any knowledge of coffee wouldn't do it. But in 2007, I had no knowledge of coffee, so it was quite an easy I mean, it wasn't really a decision, actually, because I'm still creating artwork. So I don't see it as running anything except how do I go to the studio every day. So there's no division for me between now I'm making coffee and now I'm making art. They're both one and the same thing. Both have imagination, both have skills, both things try to communicate with an audience, right? Both things are economic. I mean, because when I say I'm making art, I'm in the industry of making art. Okay? I mean, this is very different. I'm not a hobby Sunday painter where this is very cute and oh my God, I can draw a portrait. No, that's not what sort of artist I am. I'm in the industry of making art. I'm in the profession of being an artist. So these things are economic, just like coffee, and it's political. I mean, art is political, coffee is political. And both these professions, both these things, they want to hand on thoughts from society through different generations. So it's a way to communicate. It communicates through generations. It's not just to one audience. So coffee and art do those things. And like anything, as a business person or as an artist or a lover, as you would know, Abe, timing is important.
True.
You know, I mean, if you do something at the right time, now that could be by chance or by design, things flow. If you do things at the wrong time, even though you might do things very well, things are often very difficult. So when we talk about coffee and we talk about, you know, this new generation of Indonesian coffee, and that we're involved, as on my part, it's by pure, absolutely by pure chance. It just so happens in 2007, 2008, yeah, I just did it. But right at that time, for lots and lots of other reasons, why Lisa would move here, why Troy would move here, like just for lots of different reasons, totally out of my control and totally not of my thinking, it is the zeitgeist of the time, of coffee. That's it.
Coffee happens to everyone.
Yeah.
This is
Coffee
really
is everything.
Lots of things to think about after this.
I'm so sorry.
No worries, no worries, no worries. I like
He's so
thinking.
apologetic.
And the toilet. All right, Lisa. Starting a business in North Sumatra, starting a coffee business in North Sumatra, and North Sumatra is one of the biggest epicenter of coffee business in Indonesia. Is it becomes easier for you when starting a coffee business, or is it a big challenge? Because I believe that around that time, the one that is happening more is actually commercial business rather than specialty, and I believe that you started doing specialty too.
Yeah, the specialty coffee culture was blooming when we moved to Indonesia, and we had the good fortune to meet a lot of young people who were moving the coffee culture in the right direction. But for me, starting the farm was the primary. We wanted to have our own product to offer to this new coffee culture that was developing in Indonesia. So timing was important. So for starting a business in North Sumatra, it was very difficult because when we first came, the farmers that we met were not aware of the value of what they had growing on their farms. They had been misled into believing that their coffee was not used for drinking, that it was used for other things. And so our challenges began at farm level in educating the local farmers that worked around us, our neighbors who became our friends, that the land that they had value, the coffee that they were growing had great value and was valued globally, and that their origin actually had a lot of potential to become a new global source for coffee out of Sumatra. And those challenges they're huge. So you can't let them overwhelm you. You have to focus on your little area where you are and the group of people that you work with and try to make a difference there. And what we also ran into in our part of Sumatra was most of the education that the farmers were getting were from herbicide and pesticide companies. And my background, my family, we always grew our food, we raised animals, we had a farm, and we had an organic lifestyle. So that was what I wanted to bring to our business as well. We're both very environmentally conscious, and we wanted to make the farmers around us understand that they were putting themselves at risk by using those products when really like we were talking about earlier, everything they needed was right there. They just had to step back and stop using those chemicals. But simple challenges like that, when you say them, they seem simple, but they take years to make a change. And those are some of the biggest challenges that we faced originally when we started the business. And everything got easier, though, every year, because the coffee culture just began to grow, and it grew rapidly. And specialty coffee changed, I think, during the years that we've been here, from a niche market to a mainstream market. And we were fortunate to be here and be growing our own coffee when those changes were happening.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of challenges in terms of bringing new ways of doing things to certain area. And I believe that Troy is also facing those challenges? Do you have any simple tips to overcome it?
All the time.
Yeah, all the time, right? Yeah. What's your tips from the marine way? How do you approach this challenge?
No.
Simplify.
So I think one of the biggest things I took away from a military career and bringing it into coffee was something they called operational planning, which was looking at a problem from many different sides and sitting down and trying to come up with potential solutions to very complicated problems and how to implement a plan to overcome those really sticky problems. Now, we say in the military, no plan survives first contact with the enemy, but being able to, once we face different problems like, how do I actually start a business in Central Java? How do I actually get farmers to listen to me, a foreigner who's only at that time lived in the country for a year and a half, to get them to make positive changes so their coffee can get better, so they can export it or export more of it. I just had to sit down and plan and use resources that are out there and are available. So one of the things that I've done to overcome challenges is I've had to learn, and that becomes joining SCA, Specialty Coffee Association. Lots of information available there that I can turn around and pour into my partner farmers. It's, reading the coffee literature that is out there, which is, it's scant. At the time it was scant, it's getting better, but more so it's communicating with other producers. Hey, what are you guys doing over there? Oh, is it working? No? Okay. What are you doing over there? Is that working? Yes. Okay, I'm going to try that. And that communication and building a community with other producers who are trying to do the same thing, kind of like lift the value of Indonesian coffee in general, has been more than anything helpful to overcome. It's the one plan that, even though it's gotten shot up and ripped to shreds at times, I've been able to kind of consistently move through with the help of others in this industry.
You have to be pragmatic all the time, don't you? Just whatever comes up, just be ready for it and work through it.
Yeah, today I personally learned a lot of things, and I want to stress this. I truly believe that I'm a believer of global citizenship, and I believe that borders are slowly fading away and there's no foreigners anyways, especially in coffee. I believe that agents of change can come from anywhere, even to our country, Indonesia. We love Indonesian coffee, and we want to embrace these differences. Every stakeholders, they're coming from everywhere. We can work together to build this industry forward. And I believe that Rodney has a closing remark, because I really love you talking, Rodney. Yeah, maybe you have something as a closing remarks.
I have the most important ingredient in challenges.
Right. Yeah. That's why I look at the second page. I think this is important.
Yeah.
That's why.
Okay. The most important hidden ingredient in overcoming any challenge is to be friendly with Eddie.
What is that?
Yeah, that's it. Huh? I mean, it's quite simple. Actually,
Good tip.
yeah, keep it in mind. No, but I mean, on a serious note, overcoming challenges is through friendship. is through relationships. It's not a matter of, I don't mean starting businesses with friends, that's usually a disaster, right? What I mean is we all try to create some sort of platform, in some sort of business or whatever we're creating. And that platform helps people create, and through creation becomes friendships. And then those people create platforms that then bring in people that then become friends, that they'll create more platforms that help create. And just from 40 years of being an artist, that is all you need. I mean, as long as you're open to bringing people in. I mean, the worst thing in business, as the worst thing in art, is to try to hold it and try to think that you're the one that's going to maintain all this intellectual property. From experience, Eddie and I know, the more you push out, the more that comes back, and they're the platforms that are the most important things. Creating the platforms and let other people create.
That's really beautiful. That is really beautiful put together by you. All right. Okay, we come to the end of this talk show or panel discussion. Thank you again. Thank you very much for coming to Indonesia, and so that I can learn from you, so that we all can learn from you. Thank you very much. Okay. Give a round of applause. Okay. Please subscribe and like and drop your comments below about your thoughts about this discussion. Okay, bye-bye.